Lena Harrow was a science journalist. Not the kind chasing rockets or miracle cures. Lena chased the stuff nobody wanted to touch. The shelved theories, the revoked grants, the geniuses who didn't notice when dedication turned into something else. And right now, her name on the notepad was Dr. Alistair Finch, former neurophysiologist, star of the field, until recently. Finch hadn't vanished. That was the funny part. He just stepped away, quietly, cleanly, like a man closing a door and deciding it didn't exist anymore. He left a major institute after a controversy nobody would describe in full sentences, sold his house, bought a decommissioned concrete bunker on the outskirts of the city, a place built for storage, for secrets, for things you don't want seen. He gave it a name that made Lena's skin crawl a little. The Apex Institute. She wouldn't have cared. She'd covered plenty of weird vanity projects. Except she found a fragment of an internal review buried in a government database. A grant rejection. And one line that felt like it had teeth. Escalating ethical concerns regarding level 6 auditory exposure and the use of unapproved sensory compounds. Level 6. Like there were levels. Like people survived the earlier ones and called it science. She pulled strings, sent emails, played polite, and somehow, against common sense, she got an interview. The bunker greeted her like a throat. Automated security, cold air, footsteps that came back too loud, corridors that felt longer than they should. Dr. Finch met her in a small office with no windows. He looked normal. Sharp suit, thinning gray hair, hands steady. But his eyes, behind thin glasses, were too awake, too sharp, like someone who hadn't slept but also didn't believe in sleep anymore. He talked fast, but not sloppy. Manic, yes, but precise. They study perception like a relay race, he said, tapping a diagram of the inner ear. Sound hits the drum, travels the cochlea, hits the brain. Predictable. He looked at her, like he was waiting for her to yawn. I study perception like a pressure cooker. He called it threshold cartography. His idea was simple, in the way a knife is simple. Push one sense past pain, past damage, and the brain panics. Not emotionally, mechanically. It starts stealing, borrowing from other senses to make the input make sense again. His goal was to map that theft, to draw a clean, final chart of what happens when reality stops agreeing with itself. He led her deeper into the bunker. The space opened up, big, echoing, cut into sections by thick concrete walls. Reinforced, old, serious. He showed her the chambers like a proud tour guide. First, the anechoic chamber. Absolute silence, Finch said, like it was a prayer. A room so dead that people's brains start making their own sound, or their own visuals, anything to fill the gap. He said it like it was fascinating, not like it was cruel. Second, the olfactory repository, heavy ventilation, chemical warning labels, that sterile, sharp smell of places that don't want you to breathe too deeply. He described odor overload, synthetic blends meant to hit every receptor at once. Subjects report seeing the smell, he said, faintly. Like shimmering color, a gas that isn't there. Lena wrote it down, but her handwriting got tighter. Finch insisted it was controlled, ethical, non-invasive, willing volunteers, well paid. And maybe that would have been comforting if the doors hadn't looked the way they did. Not normal doors, reinforced, thick, with multi-point locks. The kind of doors you don't put on a room people can leave whenever they want. Controlled from a central console. Lena noticed it. Finch noticed her noticing it, and he kept talking anyway. On her second visit, Finch was different. Restless, irritated, like his own results had betrayed him. My original pool gave me suboptimal data, he said. He didn't say people suffered. He said data. They break too soon. He added quietly. They pull back before the full collapse. Then he sighed, almost like he was tired of the human brain being human. The brain protects itself, he told her. Pain, panic, trauma, it throws up barriers. He tapped his color-coded charts like they were sacred. I need someone who can push past that. He didn't say it directly, but Lena heard it anyway. Someone already cracked. Someone already living close to the edge. 2 weeks later, an anonymous tip hit her inbox. A missing person report that hadn't made the big outlets yet.
Daniel Vance, 42, former long-haul truck driver. After a severe accident, he'd spiraled into catastrophic sleep deprivation and paranoia, and now he was gone. His last known appointment, according to a card left behind, was with a private consultant specializing in alternative sensory therapy. The address printed on it was the Apex Institute. Lena went back to Finch immediately. He denied knowing Vance. Too quick, too clean. Under pressure, he admitted he had a new assistant, highly trained, who handled recruitment. And where is this assistant now? Finch smiled, just a little. Oh, he's busy. And then, like he couldn't help himself, he said it. Daniel Vance was ideal. High tolerance for sustained stress, history of self-induced sensory confusion. He paused, savoring it. The perfect clean slate for my final cartography. Lena didn't feel fear like in movies. No cold hand on her neck, no shadow in a doorway, just a slow, nauseating understanding. This man wasn't lying because he was ashamed. He was lying because he felt entitled. That night she went back, late, quiet, slipping past the perimeter like she didn't belong. Because she didn't. I hacked a secondary panel, got inside. The central corridor smelled faintly of dust and metal, the kind of smell that sticks to your tongue. Finch was asleep in his office. That, more than anything, made her angry. He could sleep. Using his access codes, she made her way to the anechoic chamber. At first, she heard nothing. Then she noticed the door. It wasn't silent. It was humming. Not loudly, just a subtle vibration you feel more than hear. Like a big machine trying not to be noticed. She pulled up the console. Real-time monitoring. Daniel Vance was inside. And Finch's silence chamber was a lie. The logs spelled it out in ugly clinical language. Level 6 auditory test. But the notes beside it, Finch's notes, made Lena's stomach drop. It wasn't sound you hear. It was infrasound. Low-frequency pressure waves. The kind you don't register as noise, you register as dread. The monitor showed it happening in the body. Heart rate spiking. Stress hormones surging. Breathing going uneven. Daniel's vitals were a panic attack with a pulse. Finch wasn't studying what happens when a sense disappears. He was studying what happens when a sense is punished until the brain breaks and starts improvising reality. Then she saw the next stage, olfactory assault. Once the panic peaked, once Daniel started hearing phantom clicks, phantom voices, phantom anything, Finch would flood the chamber with a noxious blend from the repository. The plan was simple. Break him with invisible pressure, then drown him in smell. Then drown him in smell. And wait for the brain to do what it does when it's cornered. Blend the senses together until nothing means what it used to. Lena stared at the screen,
She knew she couldn't just open the door. Pressure changes, systems, shock. Finch had built it like a trap, so she started shutting things down. Slowly. One system, then another. Her fingers felt clumsy. Her breath felt loud in her own ears. As the generator wound down, something finally came through the steel. Not a scream. A low, wet, guttural sound. Like whimpering pulled from the bottom of a throat. She reached for the locks, and a hand grabbed her shoulder. Hard. "Finch, you can't," he hissed. His face was inches from hers. His breath smelled faintly of solvent, of something chemical. "Wrong. I'm almost there," he said, eyes shining. The apex, the map, the collapse. He sounded grateful, like she'd walked in right on time to witness a miracle. He lunged for the console. Stronger than he looked. Lena drove her elbow into his face, felt the impact, heard him grunt, and she threw herself back at the controls. One last command. One last lock. Then, a sickening thunk. The final solenoid disengaged. She yanked the door open. Daniel Vance was curled in the center of the room. Hands clamped over his ears, like that could stop it. His body jerked in silent spasms. His eyes were wide open, bloodshot, tracking something that wasn't there. And the smell hit Lena like a slap. Burning, chemical, acrid. The odor overload compound. Finch had turned it on early. Daniel looked up, not at Lena, through her. His mouth shaped a scream with no sound. Then his gaze snapped past her, to the concrete wall behind her, like it was doing something impossible. It tastes like the blue," he whispered. His voice sounded sanded down. "The blue is so loud," he said, swallowing hard, "and it smells like 1,000 nails." Lena's blood went cold, not because it was poetic, because it was specific, because it sounded real to him. He'd crossed it. Senses collapsed into one another like collapsing floors. Finch stood in the doorway. Not horrified, not guilty, reverent. "Do you see?" he murmured. "The colors, the purity," like he was looking at a cathedral. Lena called the police. Finch was arrested. The story exploded, because of course it did. A grotesque reminder of what happens when the quest for knowledge loses the part that remembers people are people. Daniel Vance was placed in long-term psychiatric care. Physically unharmed, but his mind never came back. He spent his days in a quiet room, hands over his ears, describing the tastes of the air, the phantom pressure, the phantom color, the phantom pain. Finch, in his cell, was calm. He didn't deny anything. He mourned his data like it was a dead child. He filled pages with notes, refining his charts, correcting his lines, as if the only tragedy was that he didn't get to finish the map. Lena was praised for the scoop. She never wrote another science piece because she couldn't shake Daniel's eyes, staring at something invisible, tasting the blue like nails, and she couldn't shake the real truth behind it. Finch wasn't cruel because he hated Daniel. He was cruel because he didn't think Daniel mattered, because he believed the human mind wasn't a sanctuary, just a machine, a puzzle, something you could break just to see what shape the pieces made. And the real horror was realizing how little it took. A few $1,000s in equipment, some specialized chemicals, a reinforced room, and someone smart enough to stop seeing a person and start seeing a system. If you want more stories like this, quiet, unsettling and a little too real. Subscribe and turn on notifications. New files drop every week, and you don't want to be alone when the next one opens. Good night.